Hi everyone, this is Renee Kitchakoba Morris, and I have my friend here. Her name is Shalene, and she drove all the way here from, or not drove. Did you drive or fly?
Fly.
Flew in from Chicago, so she came for a little visit. She is the crystal goddess, Shalene. So we decided we're going to do a little video and talk about, since it's February, the month of love, we're going to talk about relationships, and we have a couple little tips, but we're going to go through a story, pretty much my story, what I've learned throughout my relationship over the last 10 years with my husband, and also some tips. We're going to go through some cute little tips and things to deal with things that come up in relationship, you know, all the things that we all go through. So where do we want to start?
Tell me about your story.
So, okay, when was it? 2009. So
the love story of
the love story,
yeah,
how
did
we
you
met.
Find your love?
Okay, so it goes back even further than that. So, I decided. So I was in a not so good relationship. My oldest son is from a previous relationship, and I knew when that relationship ended, I knew that I needed 5 years. 5 years. And that was just a knowing. 5 years of self-love, self-healing. Who the heck am I? I was young. I was 22.
You had to clear the old.
I had to clear the old, and I had to really heal myself. And I knew at that point that I wanted to bring someone in, my future husband. And what I wanted to do is I had a whole list of things, right? So I wanted him to be like this and like that and like this, all of these different things, but I knew I also had to become that myself. So if I wanted someone who is health conscious and a great dad and a great communicator, I had to learn how to be all those things, right? So that's what I set out to do. So those 5 years were like my 5 years where I transformed myself. I learned who I was. I mean, it's an ongoing process that never ends, right? So, but those 5 years delving deep. I remember the year 2009, right before I met him, I feng shuied my house because I was finally ready. You know, for those 4 years, it was all about me. I had this beautiful statue of like a woman, and she was like naked and free, you know, and that was me. You know, I said, I want to just be me and not have a partner. That last year when I started consciously calling him in, I got rid of that. I gifted it. And I bought one with a couple. So that was the anchor. So that's how feng shui creates, right? So we create an anchor. I no longer wanted to be the single woman. I wanted to call in my partner. So I bought that little statue with intention of bringing him in. I wanted that feeling, to create that feeling.
Had you made a list of what he was and who he was yet?
Yes, I did in many ways. So I would write about how we communicate, how we travel, how we get along so well. So all of those, not too much in depth, but how I knew I wanted to feel with my future partner, right? So it's just like palpable. When you read it, you can feel it. Like we laugh together, all the things, and all about family and all of that stuff. So in 2009, I started going to hypnotherapy school. I healed a lot of my past trauma. So I don't know, a lot of you guys know about my past, that when I was actually born in a communist country in Bulgaria. And when I was 4, my parents, they escaped, and it was so dangerous, they couldn't bring me with them. So one day they were my whole life, and then the next day they were gone. So that caused a lot of trauma over the years. It was abandonment.
Yeah.
And to the point where I didn't realize I was abandoning everyone in my life. Friends, if I got too close to a girlfriend, even throughout my young ages, it wouldn't feel comfortable, and I would end it. I remember practicing saying, okay, I want to call her, I love her, like we're friends, we're such good friends, and that feeling of being too scared, and then just ending that relationship. And I had a wake of broken hearts, you know, because I didn't realize I was so hurt and wouldn't allow that connection with anyone. It scared the crap out of me. And so healing that was the beginning point. That was what hypnotherapy did for me, when I did timeline process, and I did it in front of the class when I was learning this, he brought me back, the teacher, the instructor brought me back to when I was 4. And then we got to really, really, really heal that situation, got to see it for the first time from my mom's point of view, right? What was she going through? I couldn't even imagine, because I was a mom at that point.
Having to leave your little
Yeah,
girl.
and my son
being so worried.
was around that age when I was doing the work. So imagine how, you know, and then I was able to, for the first time, put myself in my mom's shoes of just having this blind faith and following what my dad wants to do, and having faith that we will reconnect one day. You know, it's crazy how brave she had to be. And also with my dad, you know, healing him, or healing the whole situation. And it just, when you see it and you learn it and you gain all of the tools. So I got to really hold myself. I got to go back and be that person that actually holds my little girl, my 4-year-old, and tell her, I'm never going to leave you. You know, I got to do that. Well, my parents left. That's okay, right? That happens. Anyone outside of us can, but you're never going to leave yourself, right? You are you. You can't leave yourself. So it's interesting, because when I was little, when my parents left, I always wanted to be alone. My aunt was there to take care of me. She was 20 years old. She was going through so much stuff on her own, you know, and she had a daughter who was 1 year older than me. So she was kind of emotionally unavailable, you know, and overwhelmed, right? Yeah. I spent a lot of time alone, and I just always remember this feeling of being held and rocking. I would rock myself, and that's a sign of trauma too, but I would constantly rock myself because I constantly felt like I was being held by an angel. And it wasn't until I started doing the work that I realized I was going back in time and holding myself as that angel. That's how powerful this work is. And the healing from that, and once I healed that, there was still work to do. It wasn't like over, right? There's so many layers, but that, up until that moment, I was only going to attract more abandonment, because I believed it so much that I was creating it in every relationship. So that was step 1. And during that same workshop, during that school, I went to Bennett Stellar University, and I took that class, healed so much, and then I went back the following year, or 6 months later, to sit through the class again. And that's when I did the process, the creation process. I created my future husband. I hadn't met him yet, but I created him. So this is a process I do with my clients also. So we go into the future. We breathe energy into that. We create exactly what it is. This could be anything, really. It could be, you know, your future home, your future career, your future partner, whatever it is.
You bring your dreams to fruition.
Literally, yes, you literally write it like it's real. You feel it. It is there. And then you put it into your future. And it's an amazing process. And so we did that. And then I wanted to take the second course. So I was ready to do their dream sculpting and all of their other stuff, and learn how to teach hypnotherapy and all of that stuff. So I talked to the teachers, and she said, you know, I really feel like you need to come to Vermont. And I'm like, Vermont, of all places, you know, I've never been to Vermont. I wanted to go to maybe Florida or Sedona again. And she said, no, the next one's in Vermont. I really feel like you need to come. So I did. I went ahead and went to Vermont. And when I got there, so the first day, my flight was delayed. And I was kind of freaking out. So I called the school, and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to miss the first day. And they're like, well, there's one other person that's going through the same thing. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And I remember thinking, like, we're probably going to, once I meet this other person, we're probably going to have a lot to talk about, because we're both probably really stressed on the other side of the country trying to get there. You know, out of like 40 or 60 people in the 2 classes. So when I got there, it was the first morning after I got there. We were at the omelet bar, and I'm waiting. I just ordered my omelet, and I'm waiting, and this guy comes up behind me, And he's like, hey, how's it going? You know, and I have my books. I look like a, you know, I'm just like in school. And I know he was like, so what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to school. So he's like, oh, and he's like, oh, you must be really young. And I'm like, no, I'm going to Bennett-Stellar University. He's like, no way, so am I. So at that moment, I remember thinking like, okay, cute boy, I don't want anything to do with him. Like, he's hot, but, you know, stay away. I wasn't ready. At that time, I still wasn't ready. And it was a 2-week course. And I don't know if it was 21, it could have been 3 weeks. I don't even remember at this point. But I worked with, in my group, there was only master hypnotherapists. All of us have been doing this work for a long time. So we're doing techniques on each other and practicing and learning more and learning how to talk and all this stuff and really delving deep. And one lady, her name is Rainey. She's amazing. She did this process on me and she walked me through this amazing journey and to find my heart. And it was a black hole. It literally felt like an outer space, a black hole. And so there was a whole other layer of healing that. So we healed it. It was such a beautiful process. And that's when I was ready to say, okay.
Let him in.
Yeah, to let him in. Because I had already met him like the day before, you know, a couple days before.
Staying already at the same hotel.
We're staying at the same hotel. And
even close to each other eventually,
yeah,
find out.
So he keeps asking, so when is our class going to meet with the other class, right? Because I'm in a different class than him. And it was Thursday night. So we met Monday morning. We, I had that whole healing throughout the week. It wasn't until Thursday that our classes go to karaoke together. And that was one of their things that they had to do. They had to hypnotize a stranger and get up in front of people and sing karaoke. And, so at that point, Rainey, she drove us back to the hotel, and we're the only two of everyone in these two classes that are staying at the Marriott. And then he's like, what floor? We get in the elevator. He's like, what floor are you in? I'm like, I'm not telling you. I know that trick. I'm not telling you. What floor are you on? You know? And he's like, the 4th floor. And I'm like, I'm on the 4th floor too. So we both get out. You know, he goes his way, I go my way. And the next day, we're in class all day, separate places. And after class, it's like 10 p.m., you know, and I hear the phone ring and I'm like, hello. He's like, you'll never guess. Can I come by? Can I come to your room? And I was like, sure. And he's like, you'll never guess where my room is. So literally between our heads while we sleep, there's a wall, like a wall this thin. He's sleeping here and I'm sleeping here. And we didn't even know this until, so I can hear him pee before I ever met him. Literally, like, I'm going to the bathroom, he's going to the bathroom, like, this dude, we have the same schedule. I don't know who this person is. But then we realize, okay, that's him. So it's so funny, all the synchronicities, right? So yeah, we were pretty much inseparable after that. We hung out Thursday, then we hung out pretty much every day since then, you know. And when I had to leave a couple days before him, and he was living in Austin, Texas, and one of the instructors in his class said, she's one of my friends, and she's like, hey, so he's like he's doing the creation process on his future wife. And she goes, and I don't know, but I feel like there's something really big happening here. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm still like, yeah, we'll see what happens, you know. But that was it. There was too many signs. And he went back to Austin, I went back to Phoenix, and I'm like, so what do we do now? Right. So he calls me every morning. We have this routine. He does nursing. So he was a nurse. He'd get off when I'm leaving to go do my workout. We'd call each other. It was like 4:30 my time in the morning or something. And it always lined up. Like everything we did always lined up. And he finally said, you know, I'm moving back to Florida. Do you want to come? Should I get a bigger apartment? Because I was a single mom at the time. My son was about to turn 5, or he was 5 right at that time. And he goes, do you guys want to come with me? And like, I can't. That's crazy. Like, I can't pick up my whole life, my son, you know, and go move to a different state. Why don't you move in with us? Move in with us. travel nurse, I think it's a 11-week or 13-week thing, we'll know. We'll either know or we'll, either way, we'll know that if it works or we'll know if it doesn't work at all.
Right.
So yeah, that was it. We met
such
in
a beautiful love
September.
story.
He moved in New Year's, the day, December 31st.
It's
He moved in.
amazing. I love that love story so much. And now look where you are.
Yeah, I mean, so he went back to school because he was in nursing for 16 years. It's funny, this morning I was just thinking about it. Someone asked me, so if he never changed, if he, because a lot of us women, we fall in love with the potential of someone, right? And one of my friends was like, what if he just never, what if he stays exactly the way he is and stays a nurse and, all this stuff? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is I'm in love with him for so many reasons. And for the first time in my life, I can list them. Like, he's so true to his word. He is such a reliable person, such an honest, such a loyal, he makes me better in every way. There's like a million things I can say. He makes me laugh. We are so great together. We have the same ambitions. We have the same way of raising, the things that matter, like all the things on my list. Like, we have the communication is so important, right? What we say, you can never take it back. So
right.
we have to be
thoughtful,
impeccable with our words, right?
Yes.
So all of the things that I know are important to me, he had the same traits because we both worked so hard to create that before we met. And so it didn't matter, is he going to be a doctor in the future? Is he going to do whatever he's going to do? It just, all the things that we had cared so much to create were there. And
wow.
So, and he did end up going back to school and becoming a doctor. And now he's a naturopathic doctor. And we have 4 kids. So we have, so Bella she's about to turn 9, or no, she is 9. She's about to turn 10. And then the twins are 7. And so we had a busy 10 years. We're about to have our 10-year anniversary on the 12th of this month.
What?
So yeah.
So close to Valentine's Day.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty amazing journey. And there's but
do you have any tips for somebody who's looking to pull in their true love?
Feng Shui works. Feng Shui totally works. So I remember when I was finally ready, because I was avoiding dating, I was avoiding all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm finally ready to start calling this person in. Little things like make room for this person, right? So if you have, and I was a co-sleeper with my baby, like he was my baby. I co-slept with him all the time. So, but he's 5 and it still felt like he was too young to go sleep in your own room. But at the same time, it's like, do I have room for this other person? There's no room there, right? I had filled in all the spaces. So make room for this person. Where is he or she gonna fit into your life, right? So find out what your, even just starting to manifest in a way of like having a space open in the closet, having your love altar is what I call it. So having your Mandarin ducks. So the Mandarin ducks, the rose quartz in that area, really putting your list together and start making room and really making sure that you are the person you want to attract.
I was going to say,
right?
That's the main tip.
That's the main thing.
Your work so that you can pull what you want in.
Your work, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you want this like amazing whatever it is, right? Yeah. And are they going to match you energetically?
And it sounds like in some ways there's something you can look up to him, that he pulls out the best in you and that you do that for him,
right? Because
you've done so much work that you were able to get something even better than you could have ever dreamed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's not, every relationship has their things, right? So many of us have trauma, childhood trauma, and we have, if there's abuse, all of these things. And sometimes it's so, we superimpose, like say if there's abuse, and because I remember my dad was a tough cookie. Like growing up, he was such he still is. He can make a grown man cry. I mean, he is such a tough guy. And so yeah, in old Bulgarian ways, there's still like you still spank your children and all that stuff. So my dad was a boxer. He would like hit me, And to the point where one time I got knocked out, like flat on the ground. So there was a lot of trauma there too, that I would, but also at the point where, you know, the house isn't clean enough, or, you know, like all these controlling things, that I superimposed my dad, or the beliefs that I had growing up from my dad, I superimposed that onto my husband, which is not fair, because that's not who he is. And he would say, like, why do you think I'm so mean? Why are you making me out to be? I'm nothing like
because
that.
The masculine before that you experienced was this
was
way.
An unhealthy kind of relationship. So then
even
I
the
had a lot of healing.
Relationship that you pull in still has so much work.
Absolutely.
Through the years.
So this is what relationships are. A relationship is it's a deeper delve into self-work. I always talk about the triangle. So let me see if I can. So if you think of a triangle, there's God up above, and then there's you and the other person, right? So the most important thing is your connection with God. It's between you and God always, and then it's the other person between them and God. You work together to get there, right? So it's always a reflection of, what do I need to work on? What's holding me in fear? What's holding me in lack?
And it brings you closer. The more you draw
That's so true.
to yourself, to God, you get closer to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
that.
That's what it is. And once we realize that, instead of pointing our finger to that other person saying, you're this, you're that, we realize, oh, what am I creating? This is my reality, right? I'm a co-creator with God. What am I creating right now? Why am I creating this person to show up this way in my life? And some people take that and they're like, well, then I'm creating abuse and creating all this. No, I'm not saying stay in an abusive relationship and you're creating it and somehow it's your fault. That's like distortion, right? I'm talking about healthy relationships. Right. You're still going to have those things that come up. And so in the moment when you're feeling all of that, whatever it is, you know, my husband, if he's like, okay, let's, you know, if the kitchen's not clean enough, and for me that's a big deal, right? It needs to be clean, and I'm going through my whole process of, I'm not doing this well enough. And I remember thinking, you know, you just go in and you say, how old do I feel right now? Okay, I feel like an 11-year-old, like I'm getting yelled at by my dad. And in the moment, you need to know to disconnect from the other person and say, I need to heal myself right now. Right now, more than anything, I need some time. So you walk away, and really you need to be aware enough to touch in with yourself, you know, check in with yourself and say, what do I need more than anything? Okay, I'm not mad at you. You're just representing something that's triggering me right now. So I need to go and do my process. He has his own process that he does that helps him. So I need my process. And so there's an agreement. When we get like this, we need to have time apart so we can do our work. We'll come back together when we can be impeccable with our words again, right? We'll come back together and deal with it. But right now I need to heal that part, and I'll explain later what came up. Right? That. So we both have our processes. His is very like, it's a list of different things that he writes down and he comes to a conclusion. For me, it's really feeling inside. How old do I feel right now? I feel like a 5-year-old, or I feel like an 11-year-old. What was happening then? Oh, my dad's yelling at me, or oh, I'm feeling unworthy, or it's never good enough, or whatever it is. Okay, is that true? No, it's not true. You know, or let me just heal. Okay, my 11-year-old just needs to have a hug. Or whatever, you know, do some art, dance. Yes. So whatever that is, release it in a healthy way, and then come back and you'll see, once you do this work over and over, you'll see the relationships start to shift. Yeah. So those are some little tips. Feng Shui works, the creation process, trauma. These are all techniques that I teach, that I work with others. And I'm here. I'm ready when you are. Give me a call and we can work together.